Let's go ahead and just like dive right in. I love like my favorite stuff of yours in this first season score is the Harfoot stuff. It's very rustic. It's got like I love the pipes. I love the hand drums that you're using. Like, how is it kind of like capturing this kind of like more innocent, rustic like theme to juxtapose against all the big epic stuff?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. The interesting thing about diving into the Rings of Power is that the Harfoot story might have been the biggest challenge, in that we all remember Howard Shore's music for the Shire, but these are not the hobbits of the Shire. We are thousands of years away from that. So one of the things that I think about when I think about the Shire as a place from the books, as a place from the movies, and as a music, is comfort. It's very comfortable. It's very pleasing. In a way, it was Tolkien's idealized version of life. Harfoots have it rough, man. It's different. They are nomads. They are in danger all the time. And yet they have with them this sense of home that they take with them. So I wanted it to feel portable. I wanted to have small drums, wooden drums, log drums. And then as a reference to where the Shire will end up, some Celtic and British instruments, penny whistle and uilleann pipes, so that it's a matter of combining all these things. I really wanted it to feel like there's this community of very comfortable people, but they are constantly on the move. And I think that that's where a lot of that percussion comes from. It just energizes this music to kind of give you that sense of comfort in danger.
Well, and there's a lot of percussion. I mean, you look at Khazad-dûm's, of course, got the big, like, soaring, like, drums and timpanis and everything. But even, like, what you were doing with, like, Numenor, it's almost like, I mean, it's a very nautical society. So it's almost like something you'd hear out of Ben-Hur, like, in the bowels of a ship. Like, it's quite different than what you would do with, like, Black Sails, right? Like, how is it, like, putting something like the Numenorian nautical themes together?
Numenor was the most liberating for me because there is no Numenorian society or music to speak of in the Peter Jackson movies that most people know. Even in the books, they in the trilogy of books that Tolkien wrote, they are an echo of a past great society. We get to see that society at their peak. So one of the things that I thought would be cool was to bring in sounds that fans of the Peter Jackson films have not heard in a Middle-earth context. And as you said, it's very nautical. The production design feels very Mediterranean to me. Reminded me of Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, Babylon. These were colors I wanted to draw from. So I brought in Mediterranean instruments, frame drums, Armenian duduk, Turkish yaylı tambur, metallic chang-changs, just these exotic instruments that feel very evocative of the Middle East and of the Mediterranean ancient world. Well, what's great is that we can establish that sound for the Rings of Power. We can establish that that is what Numenor sounds like. And my hope is that fans will then, in the future, one day, binge watch all our show and go right into the Peter Jackson movies, and that perhaps the lack of those instruments when they jump to Peter Jackson's movies will have an emotional connection for them because they will have gotten used to it. It sounds like Middle-earth. It's just a part of Middle-earth. But when they get to those movies, it's a part of Middle-earth that isn't there anymore.
Outside of the light, you get to dive deep in the dark with this show. Like, you were talking about, we don't hear a lot of Numenorian music. We don't really hear a lot of orc or goblin music in Shore's score either. And you really get to lean into that and go into some really like visceral stuff.
The orc music was maybe my favorite, and it's the least melodic. But I wanted to create music from death. I wanted to have as much of their instrumentation be made from things that were alive and no longer are. Bones and hide, bone flutes, conch shells, anything that was once alive and its carcass can make a sound is part of this. I think the most interesting sound in there is a recurring sound in all the orc material is an instrument called an Aztec death whistle, which was discovered in the 90s. And we're still not sure what it was used for, but in Aztec society, they found researchers, archaeologists found these skull-shaped items that they realized when you blow into them, they make the sound of a human screaming. And they are a terrifying sound. And I thought, well, that's got to be a signature sound for orcs if I've ever heard one. So that was really cool. And getting to play with these colors that are very ominous and very dark is very satisfying to offset the nobility of Galadriel's theme, the optimistic innocence of Elrond's theme, the childlike beauty of Nori's theme. In order to offset those, as you said, I really did need to go to some very dark places, which was very inspiring.
Well, and I think something that kind of captures that juxtaposition and that dichotomy so well is like Sauron's theme, because you look at it at its face and it's like, oh, this is a very kind of like beautiful, almost like heroic theme. But like Castlevania, if you invert it, you see the true picture. And it's like, you know, it's quite dark and works well inverted once we know who Sauron is. Like, how is it putting that together to work, make that work on both?
That was really fun, deciding that I wanted to have a theme for Sauron that when you played it backwards would be a theme for somebody else. And you would hear both these themes individually, and then at the end of the season, piece them together. For the most part, I was successful. I will say, unsurprisingly, there were some fans, I think around episode 6 or 7, that figured it out. And they were right. They were realizing, hey, I took this theme and played it backwards. And but I love that. I love that this little Easter egg can work. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm not going to lie. It's an intellectual exercise. Once you start talking about turning a theme backwards, in order for that to work and have emotion, it has to be a very particular set of pitches and rhythms and harmonies, and that took me weeks. It took me weeks to figure that out, but it does work. And I think that it's the other thing that's really interesting about it is that Sauron's theme is the only one that is contained. It's very small. Everybody else leaps up or dives down these big gestures. Sauron's theme, da 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 da. It's a ring, man. It's just this little circle. And it to me, what I love about it is that it feels, it's dangerous because it's so small. And of course, one of our main characters also has a theme that is very circular and small. It just goes the other direction. So that was really fun, and maybe the biggest challenge in season 1.
I think I got time for one more, Bear. And you know, I love that the lyrics you've incorporated straight from Tolkien's text. Like all the songs you've got, all that. How is it like putting together and writing these solo compositions to be sung? Because a lot of Tolkien's work has songs that really don't show up in Jackson's work.
Oh, absolutely. And shockingly, the ring verse didn't. The first thing I did when I got hired is I thought, oh, we got to set the ring verse. And we brought in Fiona Apple to sing it. And I love that. I mean, when I read Tolkien's works, even when I was a kid, I heard music. So I think it's vital to any Tolkien adaptation that these songs and music and lyric and poetry bleed into your experience as much as possible. And I'm just honored that part of what I do on the show can contribute to that being a reality.
Lord of the Rings of Power is available to stream on Prime Video, and catch the soundtrack on any major music streaming platform. Bear, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, man.
Thanks, Sam.
Cool. See you.